AITA for telling my parents I won't raise my sister's baby after they tried to force me? I am the middle child of 3 daughters. There's me, the responsible one. My older sister, Leah, the golden child, and my younger sister, Emily, the baby. If you ask my parents, those labels don't exist. But if you live under their roof long enough, you'll learn they might as well be carved into stone. Leah was always the bright star. Captain of this, president of that. The daughter who brought home straight A and praise from every teacher who ever laid eyes on her. Meanwhile, I was reliable, the one who cooked dinner when our parents worked late, made sure Emily finished her homework, and absorbed every emotional explosion. Emily was the cute one, the one with big brown eyes and a tiny voice that made her sound like she needed permanent protection. And boy, did she get it. I didn't resent them. Or, at least, I didn't think I did. The trigger that blew up decades of faulty, hidden wiring came from a single phone call last year.
It was a Tuesday.
My mom called. My mom only calls when something is genuinely wrong because she hates talking on the phone. So of course I answered. Her voice was shaky. "Sweetheart, we need you to come to the house as soon as possible. It's about your sister." Immediately my stomach dropped. Which one?
Leah.
That made sense. Leah was 8 months pregnant at the time. She and her husband, Mark, were madly preparing for their daughter's arrival, documenting every detail like they were producing a documentary. I asked if she was in labor. My mom said no, but something had happened and I needed to get there. I grabbed my stuff and left work without even telling my boss. I wasn't panicked, not yet, but something was itching at the back of my mind. Something cold and small and sharp. When I arrived, the door was already open. My dad was pacing the living room. My mom was wringing her hands. Emily sat curled up on the couch with wide eyes, looking at the adults like they were speaking in a different language. "Where's Leah?" I asked. "She's in the back room," my mom murmured, voice trembling. "She's resting." Resting from what? There was a silence that could break glass. Finally, my father spoke. "Leah can't keep the baby." I blinked. "What do you mean she can't keep the baby? She's due next month." My mom inhaled so hard her shoulders lifted. "Sweetheart, Leah isn't ready. She's overwhelmed. She had a breakdown yesterday. Mark left." "What?" My voice cracked so violently it hurt. My dad's jaw clenched. He said he couldn't handle her emotional instability. The fury I felt was instant and nuclear. And he just left her? Pregnant. "That's not the point right now," my dad snapped. "The point is that Leah can't take care of a newborn in her current state. The doctor said she's in no condition to handle the stress of a newborn." My mouth went dry. "So what happens?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. My parents exchanged a look, and then my mom put her hand on mine. "That's why we called you, sweetheart. We want you to take the baby." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the idea was so far from anything I expected. Except they were dead serious. "You want me to raise Leah's child?" "Temporarily," my mom said quickly. "Just until she gets back on her feet." "For how long?"
"We don't know," my dad admitted.
"It could be a few months or a year or maybe more." "So not temporary," I snapped. "That's not temporary. That's becoming a parent." My mom squeezed my hand. "You're stable, sweetheart. You have a good job, a nice apartment. You've always been the responsible one." There it was. That word again. Responsible. The family's built-in, do-it-all daughter. "No," I said immediately. "Absolutely not." The room froze. "What do you mean no?" my dad demanded, his voice raising like I just refused to donate blood to a dying relative. "Your sister needs you." "So do I," I shot back. "My life doesn't revolve around taking care of everyone else." My mom inhaled sharply, like my words physically slapped her. "We expected more compassion from you. Is Leah okay?" I asked, ignoring their guilt trip attempts. "She's sedated," my mom murmured. "She keeps crying and saying she can't be a mother." That broke my heart. I loved Leah despite her golden child status. She'd always been kind to me, even in her most self-centered phases. But I wasn't going to raise her baby. I'll support her, I said. I'll help her, but I won't be the baby's mother. My father stood up, towering over me like he used to when I was a teenager who dared to talk back. This family sacrifices for each other. We don't abandon each other. I'm not abandoning anyone, I argued. I'm setting boundaries. Boundaries? My dad scoffed. That's the modern word for selfishness. Something inside me cracked then. Something old and heavy and tired. Selfishness. The word they'd thrown at me any time I chose myself over them. When I wanted to go to college out of state. When I didn't want to watch Emily every weekend. When I said I wasn't coming home for Christmas because I needed rest. Selfish was their weapon of choice. I'm not taking the baby, I repeated. My mom started crying. Loudly.
Dramatically.
As if the walls needed to hear her heartbreak. Emily finally spoke, her voice tiny. I mean, I'd do it, but I'm too young. And I can't afford it. Exactly, my mom said through tears. You're the only option. I opened my mouth, closed it, and then stood up because I physically couldn't sit there anymore without screaming. I'm leaving, I said. I'll come check on Leah later. But this conversation is over. I walked out.
Update.
The 2 weeks after that first confrontation weren't just stressful, they felt like someone flipped my life upside down. Daniel and I have been together for a year. He's calm, patient, and emotionally grounded. So when everything with my family started spiraling, Daniel was the only anchor I had. At first, I didn't want to drag him into my family's chaos. We'd always kept his relationship with them mild and polite. Birthdays, holidays, the occasional dinner. He liked them well enough, but he'd never seen their darker side. The side that demanded, manipulated, and suffocated. But I couldn't hide what was happening. After the third day of constant calls, texts, and pressure, Daniel finally asked, Babe, what exactly is going on? I explained everything, the breakdown, the guardianship idea, the pressure, the guilt, the emotional blackmail. Daniel listened quietly, his eyes darkening with concern. When I finished, he said, They're trying to corner you. I nodded. That's what it feels like. And you said no? Repeatedly. Daniel set his food down. Then there's nothing else to discuss. But there was. Because my family didn't hear no, they heard convince harder. The next morning, I woke up to 5 missed calls from my mom, 3 from my dad, and 2 from Emily. I turned my phone face down and tried to breathe normally. Daniel pulled me into his chest, warm and steady. You don't have to answer, he murmured. I know, but the guilt is killing me. That's the point, he said gently. They're using it to break you down. He wasn't wrong, but part of me still felt responsible. A few days later, my mom decided to take things further by showing up unannounced. Daniel was the one who answered the door, not me. I could hear her sugary voice from the hallway. Oh, Daniel. So nice to see you. He didn't return the tone. Is she expecting you? No, but this is important. I came around the corner, arms crossed. Mom, I told you to stop coming over without calling. She swept past Daniel. We need to talk. She started her speech. Your sister is getting worse. She needs support. This baby needs stability. And you're the only one who has that. Daniel stepped beside me. She has already said no. My mom froze, like she hadn't expected him to be part of this conversation. This is a family matter, she said sharply. I'm her partner, he replied. That makes it my business. The look she gave him. I've only ever seen that expression when she disapproved of someone Emily dated. A mix of disdain, superiority, and annoyance that anyone would dare challenge her authority.
She turned back to me.
You're letting your boyfriend make decisions for you? I nearly laughed.
No, Mom.
He's supporting the decisions I make. She scoffed. He's clouding your judgment. I don't think he understands how families work. I understand perfectly, Daniel said. Families don't bully their children into becoming parents. Her eyes widened, offended to her core. You don't speak to me that way. Daniel didn't flinch. Then don't treat her this way. I'd never been prouder, or more terrified. because challenging my mother meant this wasn't going to blow over. It was going to escalate. And it did. The next escalation wasn't yelling. It was something far worse. A lawyer called me at work. I answered, and a calm voice explained that my parents had filed preliminary paperwork to be considered as guardians for Leah's baby if her ability to care for the child came into question. I was listed as the proposed guardian. I froze. I never agreed to this, I said, my hands shaking. That's okay, the lawyer said. You're not automatically obligated. The court just needs your confirmation. If you don't want to be listed as guardian, I'll need a short written statement saying so. As soon as I hung up, I rushed out of my office, barely able to breathe. Daniel picked up after 2 rings. He drove me straight to my parents' house. We didn't plan what we'd say. My parents were in the kitchen when we walked in. I didn't speak at first. I just held up my phone. What the hell is this? I demanded. We took necessary precautions, he said. Precautions? I practically screamed. You listed me as a guardian without my consent. You're overreacting, my dad replied. It's not binding. Yet, I snapped. You intended it to be. My mom wrung her hands. Sweetheart, we hoped this would take the pressure off Leah. If she knew the baby was going to you. That's not your decision. I cried. Emily wandered in at that moment, drawn by the shouting. When she saw Daniel, she made a face, one I immediately recognized. She thought he was meddling. What's he doing here? Emily asked. I'm here because she shouldn't be dealing with this alone, Daniel said. Emily scoffed. This isn't about you. It is when you're manipulating her into parenting a baby she never agreed to, Daniel said sharply. My dad stepped forward. You don't talk to my daughter like that. Daniel didn't back down. Then you don't talk to my girlfriend like that. The room went still. You could hear a pin drop. My mom snapped first. You're turning her against us, she said to Daniel. No, Daniel replied. You're doing that all by yourselves. My mom let out a high, humorless laugh. Of course you don't want her involved. A baby would ruin your carefree little lifestyle. Daniel's jaw flexed. A baby wouldn't ruin anything. A forced baby would. My mom gasped like he'd slapped her. My dad sounded ice cold. If you two don't want the baby, just say so. Don't insult us. I did say so. I yelled. Over and over and over again. You'll regret this, my dad said. No, I answered. I'll regret letting you control my life. That was the final nail. We left. But the real chaos didn't start until Leah went into labor. My phone buzzed at 1:14 a.m. My mom. She's in labor. We're heading to the hospital now. I woke Daniel immediately. He grabbed his keys without asking questions. We arrived 20 minutes later. Leah looked terrified. I went to her side instantly, holding her hand. I'm here, I whispered. I'm not going anywhere. She sobbed with relief. But my parents? They stood in the corner glaring at Daniel and me like we were criminals who'd broken into the hospital. When the baby was born, a tiny girl with dark hair and lungs of steel, my mom cried like an overjoyed grandmother in a movie. Then everything flipped. My mom turned to me with the baby in her arms and said, "She needs her mother." I blinked. She has one. My mom stepped toward me, holding the newborn out like a sacrificial offering. No, she whispered. You are her mother now. I stepped back so fast I nearly hit a chair. No, I said firmly. Give her to the nurse. My mom's face twisted. Take her. Mom, stop. She needs you. I said no. My dad raised his voice. Stop being dramatic and take the baby. Daniel stepped between us. Back the hell off. A nurse rushed in at that moment, hearing the shouting, and took the baby from my mother's arms. My mom actually fought her, saying she was giving the baby to the wrong person. Security was almost called. Leah sobbed hysterically, begging everyone to stop. And that was it. The breaking point. The moment the entire structure of our family shattered like glass. I turned to my parents, shaking with fury I didn't know I was capable of. This is the last time you ever disrespect me like this, I said. I'm done. OP, my mother sobbed. No, I said. I'm done. You tried to trap me. You tried to force me. You tried to manipulate me. You tried to use her, I pointed toward the baby, as leverage. I will never forgive you for that. My dad sputtered something about family duty, but I didn't hear it. I didn't care. Daniel took my hand. We walked out of the hospital, and I never went back to their house again. Update. Going no contact with my family wasn't a clean cut. Strangely enough, the silence was both terrifying and peaceful. But I didn't cut off everyone. I stayed in contact with Leah. Not publicly. Just privately, quiet. 2 days after the hospital blowout, I sent her a text I reread a dozen times before pressing send. I'm here for you. If you ever need help, even if it's babysitting, I will be there. But I will not be forced to raise your daughter. You never asked that of me, and I know that. I love you. I don't love the pressure they put on us. She replied an hour later. Thank you. I'm so sorry for everything. I didn't need an apology. I needed her to know I hadn't abandoned her, just them. We messaged quietly for weeks while she healed. She didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Daniel. It felt like the only thread connecting the ashes of what used to be our family. Then one day, Leah sent me a message that made my heart drop. Mark came back. At first, I thought it was bad news. But it wasn't. Not this time. During her pregnancy, Leah went through a breakdown that was far more serious than anyone initially realized. Late one night, her voice trembling over the phone, she recounted the events in detail. It started with small but escalating signs, accusations of cheating, growing paranoia, and a persistent fear that Mark was hiding something from her. These feelings quickly intensified into intense arguments, screaming matches, tears, apologies, and then more fighting. Leah described feeling disconnected from herself, as if she no longer recognized who she had become. The situation first reached a dangerous point when, in the heat of an argument, she threw a vase at Mark. Though it didn't hit him, it came frighteningly close. Mark forgave her, and they attempted to move forward. However, tensions erupted again one night when Mark returned home late from work. During another heated argument, Leah reacted impulsively and, in the chaos, accidentally pushed him down the stairs. She couldn't fully process what had happened in the moment and was consumed by shock and fear as he fell. She froze, overwhelmed by the realization of the consequences of her actions. Mark survived, just injured enough to be hospitalized and terrified. He left that week. She never blamed him. I don't deserve him, Leah sobbed into the phone. You deserve help, I told her. So when she said, Mark came back, I braced myself for the worst. But the truth? He came back because he found out he had a daughter. And he faced his fear, for her. He arrived with flowers and a look of visible anxiety. The moment Leah saw him, she was overcome with emotion and began sobbing uncontrollably. She repeatedly apologized, and Mark, too, was moved to tears. He apologized sincerely for abandoning her, acknowledging the pain his absence had caused. They talked for hours. About therapy. About medication. About starting again, not as the same people, but as people who had broken and healed differently. And slowly, carefully, they rebuilt. 3 weeks later, Leah moved back home with the baby. And she told me everything. I cried after the call. Daniel held me. That night, he gave me the biggest surprise of my life. I was standing on our balcony, still wiping tears from my face. Daniel came out with a blanket and wrapped it around my shoulders. You look relieved, he murmured. I am, I said. It feels like something finally settled. He nodded. I'm glad. I turned to him. He looked nervous. He reached into his pocket. I froze. I know things have been chaotic. I know your family is a mess right now. But I also know I want to be by your side through all of it. He got down on one knee. I love you. I started crying instantly. Will you marry me? I didn't even think. Yes, I said. He slipped the ring on my finger. It was perfect. We called no one except Leah. She screamed into the phone, thrilled for me, and I told her she was invited no matter what. But as for everyone else,
No.
no contact meant no contact. Fast forward 8 months, wedding season. Leah showed up early with Mark and the baby. She looked healthy, calm, lighter. Mark looked proud. He shook Daniel's hand and whispered, "Take good care of her." I hugged Leah so tightly she laughed. But the peace didn't last long, because word got out, and my parents went ballistic. They started by calling nonstop again, then texting, then emailing. When that didn't work, they escalated. They showed up at my home. I didn't want to open the door. I didn't want to give them an inch of space back in my life. But Daniel said quietly, "Maybe you need closure." So I opened the door. They stepped inside like they owned the place, looking me up and down with a mix of hope and entitlement. My mom spoke first. "So, you're getting married?" "Yes," I said flatly. "You didn't invite us," my dad added, like he was pointing out a typo. "No," I repeated. My mom burst into tears instantly. "How could you do this to us? After everything we've done? After we raised you?" I cut her off. "You didn't raise me. You used me." Her mouth snapped shut. "You tried to force me to adopt a child that wasn't mine. You tried to manipulate me, guilt me, legally trap me. You crossed boundaries I didn't even know existed. And you didn't do it for Leah. You did it because you wanted control." My dad's face reddened. "We did it for family. You did it for yourselves," I corrected. "And while you were trying to turn my life upside down, Leah and Mark were dealing with real pain, real trauma that had nothing to do with me. You didn't even care about the truth." They had never known the truth about Leah hurting Mark. Leah hadn't told them. She didn't trust them. And she told me not to tell them either. And I didn't. My parents didn't deserve that level of honesty. What they deserved was distance. "I'm getting married," I said. "And you're not invited. You won't meet my husband. You won't meet my future children if I have them. You won't be part of my life." My mother sobbed harder. "You can't just erase us." I already did. Then I opened the door. "Get out." My dad tried to argue.
Get out.
This time, Daniel stepped beside me, not speaking, just standing there, a quiet wall of support that made it impossible for my parents to push their way back into my heart. My parents stood there, stunned, devastated, but not apologetic. And I realized in that moment, I didn't lose anything. I only gained freedom. They stepped out. I closed the door. And for the first time in my life, I felt whole.